You keep repeating information again and again, but when it matters, you blank. You read the book, highlight the lines, memorize the notes, but the knowledge doesn't stick. The frustration is universal. You feel like your brain leaks information. The truth is, the problem is not your intelligence and not your effort. The problem is that you are using the wrong system. You were taught that repetition equals retention. That is a lie. Your brain is not built to remember through repetition. Your brain is built to remember through mistakes. Every time you make an error and correct it, the correction cements itself as a powerful memory trace. If you only rehearse without failing, you deprive your brain of the signal it needs to upgrade memory. Today you will learn the memory through errors code, a protocol that turns every small mistake into a permanent anchor. Once you install it, your recall will accelerate, your learning curve will flatten, and you will remember under pressure instead of freezing. Here is the performance leak. Most people rely on rote memorization. They reread notes, highlight sentences, or recite facts. The brain treats this as low-stakes repetition. Dopamine barely fires, and without dopamine, the hippocampus does not tag the memory as important. That is why after hours of practice you forget. But when you make a mistake, your brain activates a different system. The anterior cingulate cortex lights up, signaling a mismatch between expectation and reality. That error signal triggers dopamine release. Dopamine then flags the correction as important and tells the hippocampus, lock this in. That is why you remember the wrong answer you gave in class more vividly than the dozens of correct ones. Mistakes are not failures. Mistakes are the delivery system for memory consolidation. The protocol is simple but counterintuitive. Step 1. Deliberately test yourself before you feel ready. Instead of rereading material, close the book and try to recall or apply it. You will fail often. That is the point. Each failure creates the error signal your brain craves. Step 2. Immediately correct the mistake. Do not let the error linger. The act of correction is where the anchor is installed. When you see the right answer right after failing, the brain rewires faster than from repetition alone. Step 3. Repeat the test with spacing. Wait a few hours, then a day, then a week. Each time you re-encounter the mistake and correct it, the memory trace gets stronger. This is called error-based consolidation, and it is the backbone of accelerated learning systems used by elite performers. Think of your brain like a computer with error-checking software. If data enters smoothly with no friction, the system assumes it is low priority and stores it in temporary cache. But if the system detects an error, it activates redundancy protocols and saves the corrected data permanently. That is what you want to exploit. Every mistake is a flag that says, this matters, save it. By avoiding mistakes, you are tricking your brain into thinking nothing is important. By embracing mistakes, you transform them into hardwired knowledge. Let's apply this to a concrete example. Imagine you are studying a new language. The traditional approach is to repeat vocabulary lists until you can recite them. But the memory fades within days. Instead, use the error protocol. Test yourself on 10 new words before studying them. Write down your guesses. You will miss most of them. Then reveal the correct answers. Your brain flags the gap, corrects it, and locks it in. When you repeat the test the next day, you will recall the corrections far better than if you had simply rehearsed. This is why language apps that force you into testing outperform those that just let you read. The mistake is not a setback. It is the key that tells your brain this is important enough to save. The same principle applies to presentations, negotiations, or skills. If you only practice in private with no stakes, your brain logs it as low priority. But when you practice in front of others, stumble, and correct yourself, the emotional sting amplifies the memory. That sting is not weakness, it is leverage. It drives dopamine, which drives consolidation. This is why elite athletes watch footage of their missed shots as much as their highlights. The missed shot, corrected, wires in the adjustment more deeply than the perfect play. They know mistakes are memory fuel. Now let's make it tactical with a step-by-step framework you can use today. First, pick the domain you are learning. Sales scripts, coding, financial strategies, or exam prep. Second, design a recall test that forces you to produce an answer instead of rereading one. Third, accept that you will fail. That failure is the signal. Fourth, correct instantly by checking the right answer. Fifth, retest after a delay to reinforce. This 5-step loop turns every study session into a memory consolidation drill. You are no longer wasting time on repetition. You are hacking the brain's natural error correction system. There is also a hidden benefit. By training with mistakes, you reduce fear of failure. Most people avoid testing because they hate being wrong. But when you reframe mistakes as anchors, the fear fades. You start to chase errors, knowing each one makes you stronger. This builds a psychological edge. You are not just remembering better. You are performing with more confidence because mistakes no longer break you. They train you. That mindset is a competitive weapon in business and life. Let's go deeper into the neuroscience. The striatum and hippocampus form a loop during learning. The striatum tracks prediction errors, while the hippocampus encodes new memory traces. When you correct an error, dopamine surges through this loop, strengthening the synaptic connections. This process is called long-term potentiation. Without the error, the potentiation is weak. With the error, the potentiation is strong and lasting. This is why mistake-driven learning produces memories that survive for years instead of weeks. The loop is stronger, the trace is deeper, and recall is faster under pressure. Here is a quick drill to prove it to yourself. Take a piece of information you want to remember, like a list of financial ratios or negotiation techniques. Cover the list and try to write it from memory. You will miss some. Now uncover and correct the mistakes, then walk away. The next day, retest. You will find the corrected items stick far better than the ones you never got wrong. That is the memory through errors code in action. It is not theory. It is how your brain actually works. And once you start using it deliberately, your ability to learn complex material will feel like a cheat code. The practical applications are endless. Preparing for exams, you stop rereading and start error testing. Preparing for a pitch, you stop reciting in your head and start trial runs where mistakes are exposed. Learning a skill, you stop hiding from failure and start chasing it in controlled environments. Every mistake you make and correct is another anchor dropped into long-term memory. Instead of wasting hours repeating what doesn't stick, you turn minutes of error correction into permanent retention. This is leverage. This is efficiency. This is how top performers learn faster and remember longer than everyone else. There is another layer to this code that most people overlook. Memory is not just about storing facts. It is about being able to retrieve the right fact under pressure. You do not forget because the memory is gone. You forget because the retrieval pathway is weak. Error correction strengthens retrieval more than passive study ever can. Every time you make a mistake and correct it, you are not just strengthening the fact itself, you are strengthening the pathway to recall it in the future. That is why people who use testing and correction remember faster and more reliably in high-stress situations like exams, interviews, negotiations, or pitches. Their pathways have been trained by mistakes. Those who only rehearse quietly in their heads collapse under stress because their pathways were never stress-tested. Here is how you can weaponize this. In any area where you need sharp recall, build in failure drills. If you are preparing for a presentation, stand up and deliver it cold without notes. You will stumble. That stumble is gold. Write down exactly where you blanked and correct it immediately. Repeat again the next day. Each correction locks in the memory deeper than hours of silent rehearsal. If you are learning investment principles, test yourself by trying to explain them out loud without looking. You will realize quickly what you cannot explain. That gap is the memory anchor waiting to be forged. Fill it in, and the next time the knowledge is ready on command. This is how professionals build bulletproof recall, not by avoiding mistakes, but by deliberately chasing them in controlled conditions. The second upgrade is emotional tagging. Mistakes often sting. That sting is not weakness, it is leverage. Emotion amplifies memory encoding. When you get something wrong and feel even a flash of embarrassment, your brain flags the correction as high priority. Instead of fearing that sting, you can embrace it. For example, if you practice negotiation lines with a partner and stumble, the correction will be stamped far deeper than if you had recited alone. The small risk of embarrassment is the price you pay for durable memory. This is why group training, mock interviews, and practice under observation are so powerful. The mistake plus correction plus emotion equals retention. Another critical detail: do not let errors pile up without correction. Your brain needs closure. If you fail and walk away without resolving it, the brain stores confusion instead of clarity. That is why the immediate correction is non-negotiable. You must close the loop right after the mistake. The faster the correction, the stronger the memory. This is called prediction error minimization, and it is how your brain constantly updates its models of the world. You want to weaponize that mechanism for learning. Fail fast, correct instantly, repeat with spacing. That is the protocol in its purest form. Now let's tie this to high-level performance. Imagine two people learning the same skill. One spends 10 hours rereading notes. The other spends 3 hours testing, failing, correcting, and spacing. After a week, the second person recalls more with less effort. After a month, the gap is exponential. After a year, one is stuck at average, while the other is operating with mastery. The difference is not talent. It is error-driven learning. Top performers are not afraid of mistakes. They hunt them because they know each mistake corrected is another weapon forged. That mindset separates those who keep grinding with no progress from those who accelerate. Here is your tactical playbook. 1. Stop spending time on passive repetition. 2. Replace it with active recall testing. 3. Embrace mistakes as the fuel for retention. 4. Correct them instantly and visibly. 5. Repeat corrections with spacing over days and weeks. 6. Amplify the effect by practicing in front of others to trigger emotional tagging. 7. Track your errors and corrections to build proof of progress. This framework will turn every study or practice session into a memory consolidation session. You will stop wasting time and start building knowledge that sticks under pressure. The long-term payoff of this code is massive. When you master the ability to lock in information quickly, you accelerate skill acquisition across every domain. You read once, test, correct, and it stays. You can enter new industries faster, learn new languages faster, prepare for presentations with less stress, and outpace competitors who are still stuck in repetition mode. Knowledge becomes a compounding asset instead of a leaky bucket. And in a world where speed of learning is the ultimate advantage, that is a weapon you cannot afford to ignore. So here is the challenge. Take one topic you are working on this week. Stop rehearsing. Test yourself cold, expose the mistakes, correct them instantly, and retest in 2 days. You will see the difference after one cycle. After a month of using this system, your recall will feel sharper, faster, and more reliable than it ever has. This is the Memory Through Errors code. Install it now and turn every mistake into a permanent anchor. And if you want to keep building your arsenal of mental codes for success, subscribe to Success Code right now. Every week we turn hidden science into tactical protocols that give you an unfair advantage in career, finance, and life.